Members of the Flat Music Society, what is going on? So, this is a video that I've been putting off. Um, I felt like I wasn't, I feel like I still am not really a big enough content creator yet for people to care about this. But, there's some of the members in my Discord or the members of my YouTube that are in my Discord and just friends kind of encouraged me to make the video. I'm probably gonna post it for my members to see and let them decide if I should post it. But as for it to be therapy for me and possibly help somebody else, I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit of what I mentioned in my "How to Be Me" video of kind of stuff I've went through in the past. Um, I want to say that being a content creator or being in any type of spotlight, you really have to have thick skin. Um, I've seen some of the artists that even I react to when they post stuff on YouTube. And I'm gonna show you some of it here, and you'll see what video it is. But um, just because of the subject matter, they get a lot of hate, and I think it's unjust. I don't understand why somebody creates a song and it's about a woman empowering herself to finally fight back, to finally fight against somebody who's wronged her, hurt her, physically hurt her, mentally hurt her. And instead of somebody like congratulating this person for finally breaking through and doing that, they decide that, you know, their masculinity is is uh is at risk here because there's a strong woman in front of them and they don't know how to handle it. So they're afraid. So they decide to talk crap about them in the comments and talk about how their music is horrible. And I don't understand that mentality. Like I've cried a couple times on my reactions and I don't see myself as any lesser of a human being for it. I actually think that that means I'm more in touch with my masculinity because I'm willing to share that with people. I just don't understand these soy boys out there that think they're hot shit, that want to talk down to a woman who's being finally deciding to empower herself, right? Uh, I think that hits me a little bit because of the fact that I have a daughter and I know what she's going to have a lot of struggles in her life because of her being, she's tiny. She's the smallest in her class and she's going to have that. She's a very sensitive little girl. And I know that she's going to have a lot of hard pills to swallow in her life. But I tried to teach her to be strong and realize that not everybody's opinions matter, right? What matters is her opinion and her kind of what she thinks of herself. But my whole point to this is you got to be thick skinned. I've gotten a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but I've gotten some comments here and there that were just god awful. I don't delete bad comments because I think some disparity is good in all facts of life, whether it's at your job, in your household, in just in life in general. You need that contrasting opinion to see the other side, right? You don't want to get a big head. You don't want to think that you're right. Just because thousands of people agree with you doesn't mean that you're right. But if it's extremely hurtful, not just to me, but to the community and to other people who might be going through something similar, I definitely delete those comments. On that How to Be Me reaction, I was bombarded with a lot of people who appreciated my vulnerability. Kind of why I wanted to make this video. And I've gone on a 4-minute tangent here, kind of, but it's to lead into this. My hardships are probably going to seem pretty pale to a lot of other people's hardships. But to me, at that particular time in my life, being a single child and being a little bit, I'll say coddled, they were very difficult for me. Um, I grew up, my parents divorced when I was 4 years old. And kids being kids at 4 years old, I voiced that to some of the kids in my class just because, you need a friend, you need somebody to talk to about it. And for the most part, I had two or three kids that were, uh, I guess, very like helpful. They would give me hugs and stuff and tell me it'll be okay. Um, but there are a lot of kids, especially in second grade, that kind of used that to poke fun at me, and it definitely affected me uh, in a certain way, and made me look at. I guess it made me look at the divorce in a different light. I just thought it was something that families go through, and all of that, and I never blamed myself for any of it because I was too young to understand the concept, right? But there were some kids, who said, things like, "Look at you, you caused your parents to hate each other," things like that. It's just stuff that I went through that I shouldn't have gone through at that age. And let's fast forward a little bit. I recently posted in my Discord. There's a link below, kind of what I'm currently going through and how it all relates to my past. That I mean, that divorce definitely affected me, but it led to other issues um, that I'm now realizing, and I'm realizing that that divorce was kind of the almost like the least of my problems. Um, I actually have a positive outlook on that. I got to celebrate everything twice. I got to celebrate two birthdays, two Christmases, two Thanksgivings, two Easters. Like I got the double the amounts of presents. Like I got extra love because of that. I had a stepdad who was amazing and supported me in a lot of stuff. Um, but my I recently last year found out and was officially diagnosed with general anxiety. I took a bunch of tests because I was not sleeping well. I was literally, you know, going to bed at 10 o'clock, but I wasn't falling asleep till 3 a.m. I tried, I tried all these different types of apps to help with it. I tried, ASMR. I tried everything short of like going to hypnotist, the sleep paralysis hypnotist type of thing. Um, so I just decided enough was enough. With the encouragement from my wife, I went and got tested at the doctors for like sleep apnea. And then it was, well, let's check to see for if you're having something else. Is it depression? Is it anxiety? Let's test you for that. And I took a test and it said general anxiety, and I wanted multiple different opinions. So I took 3 different tests that you could take. Excuse me, and all of them pointed to general anxiety. Um, and a lot of those questionnaire ones that you take, like depending on how many questions you answer in this particular spectrum of answers, determine if you're just general anxiety, manic anxiety, depression, um, bipolar, things like that. And all of them, I was one question away from being depression. So I went to therapy for I went to therapy for like 3 months. And the first month was to determine if I'm actually depressive or not. And they determined I wasn't. But, um, looking back, doing some research once I was diagnosed with general anxiety, I've had it my whole life. And I've definitely had bouts of depression throughout my life. Um, but the anxiety thing, it's not just like, oh, I'm anxious about this thing that's coming up or this meeting. It's like, it's debilitating. For those of you that have anxiety, I didn't really get the panic attacks. I've had 2 panic attacks my whole life. Um, and that was more so, it's part of the anxiety, but me just dwelling on something, worrying about something happening that's not hasn't even happened yet. And I get to the point where I get so anxious about it and so worried about something that's going to happen that I start hyperventilating and stuff. But I don't get that much. For me, it is a lot of that. It's dwelling on something that hasn't happened yet or that has happened. What's going to be the repercussions? But it's also like, if I talk to this person, what are they going to say about me, about my looks or what I'm saying, how I'm speaking? Like it's over analyzing everything. Um, and you know, going to therapy, while I didn't like my therapist, it did help me realize through researching anxiety and stuff that I did have anxiety my whole life and kind of where it stemmed from. Um, let's get to the bit I kind of talked about in How to Be Me. In college, I went into college not really knowing exactly what I wanted to do with my life. Um, I know I knew that I loved music. I've loved music my whole life from being young, like a almost like an infant, toddler, whatever. Um, I was always bobbing my head to the beat, stuff like that. I played guitar since I was 13, been in bands and stuff, and I knew I wanted to do that. So I went to school for music, and I kind of had the mentality, as a lot of teenagers do, that it's music, it's going to be easy. I don't need to study, and because a lot of stuff when I was in college was self-paced, like online classes. You don't really need to attend the lectures. They basically grade you on your final and some of the homework you do. Like, I didn't attend any of those classes. I said I'll do it later. I'll do it later, and it all piled up. And I essentially failed my first couple semesters of school in college, and I was on academic probation. And that kind of put me in a little bit of a funk, but not so much to where I was like in a bad state. But it's just one thing on top of a bunch of things. I started partying a lot as kind of a coping mechanism, going out. Since I lived in San Francisco or close to it, downtown was like two exits away. So I was partying a lot with friends, drinking a lot. Um, I met a girl who, let's just say, I fell head over heels for. I wear my heart on my sleeve, which I kind of get from my mother, and we're gonna get into that. Um, and I used to be at that point in my life very emotional, and that's still something I deal with. But I'm very selfish when it comes to somebody I love, and I know that's kind of a toxic trait, but it's something that I've gotten better at. But anyways, her and I kind of were just hanging out, and I like invited her out, and we hit it off, and I like fell head over heels for this person, and they liked me back, but it became to the point where I overanalyzed everything. Like, oh, this person isn't responding. Just overanalyzing every aspect of our relationship, um, to the point where I was like, I had negative animosity towards this person because of how because of how I thought they were acting when they weren't acting in any way, and I was taking that negative animosity and pushing it onto them and treating them like shit at times when there was no need for me to do it. So I was essentially self-sabotaging the relationship. Um so it ended up becoming like it led to us basically breaking up. It was like maybe a year. So it wasn't that long of a relationship, but because of how deep I fell into that, it really screwed me up. And then I went through, the death of a couple people in my family, and that hit me hard. And me failing school and about to get kicked out of school, and then all of that happening, and then there was issues with my mom and my stepdad, them almost getting divorced and all of that stuff. And I'm gonna get deeper into that in a second. It was just everything was all happening all at once. Um, and I took a long hard look at like my religion and all that stuff, because while I wasn't like a devout practicing Catholic, I was Catholic. I grew up Catholic, and I believed in that stuff. And while I was in an ultra depression, to the point where there was full on weeks that I still don't remember what I was doing. Um, I'm talking like drinking, I'm talking hard drugs, I'm talking all of that stuff. And there's some really, really bad stuff that I did and went through that I'm not going to put out there for the masses. But uh, some of it's like get arrested type of stuff. Some of it's like deplorable stuff that I've did that I don't remember doing. But um, my friend Greg knows some of it, and he was there for me for a lot of it, and that's why we're still friends to this day. And he helped me through a really dark time. Without him, I wouldn't be here, to be honest with you. And and music, but without him, I wouldn't be here. And but I went through so much in such a little time that I felt like, you know, why do I believe in this religion that's supposed to forgive so many bad people? Why am I one of the ones not being forgiven? Why am I one of the ones that has to go through all of this suffering? And like I said in chalk or in How to Be Me, I felt abandoned by God. I felt abandoned by my own religion. And I decided at that point that, well, I don't necessarily stop believing in it, that I would be agnostic, that I wasn't going to follow it anymore. Um, and I was in such a dark place. Like I said, I don't remember weeks at a time. I don't remember a lot of things that I did, people I hurt, money I spent. Um, and there was a lot of times where I'd be driving home from work completely sober over the bridge, the Bay Bridge. For those of you who live in the San Francisco Bay Area, you know what that is. It's a really high bridge overlooking a body of water that I legitimate was like, I can drive this over and nobody would know the difference type of thing. And, um, I mentioned this. I finally was able to like open up about this to my dad, and seeing, seeing how he reacted to it, and, how hurt he was. I didn't tell him, kind of sucked, but same time, I didn't want to burden him with my problems. He was essentially a single dad that made the decision to get out of a toxic relationship for my benefit and his. And he had to pay child support. He had to feel the brunt of all of that. And I didn't want to burden him with more problems and make him feel like he was inadequate as a dad, because I know how that feels every single day, man. I put so much pressure on myself as a father. I don't want to feel like that ever. And so, I never told him about that. So thanks to Greg, we still partied, we still drank, but we'd have nights where him and I would just go for a walk and just talk. And I needed to punch a wall. He let me punch a wall. He let me scream. He let me do whatever I needed to do, I feel like we all need friends like that. Sorry. And back then, I had the mentality that a lot of people still have, and that's, if you're a man, you can't show emotion. You can't feel like that. You're not allowed to feel like that. You're supposed to be strong. You're supposed to be masculine. What kind of a man cries? And that just makes you bottle it up. It makes you feel worse. So I kind of got through it, and I kind of got my shit together, and I took a long look at what I wanted to do and realized that being a struggling musician was not something I wanted to do. While I loved music and my dream was to someday be in music somehow, some way, I took my degree I got in music, and I spent a year and a half changing my focus, and basically went into computer science, which is what my day job is in computer science. And I spent a year and a half basically bombarding myself with classes and curriculum. And in a year and a half, I did 3 years worth of curriculum to get into that new focus. And I got my bachelor's degree in computer science. Got my life together, got through all that hard times, met my beautiful wife. We started this beautiful family. And I kind of moved on from all of that. And then stuff just started creeping back up. My social anxiety started to rear its ugly head pretty fast. I don't know if it was like paternal postpartum, which is a thing. I don't know if it was just the stress of life. As you become an adult and you get more responsibilities, things do get harder. And back to where we were with going through therapy and stuff and realizing a lot of things. Recently, I had to make the tough decision of letting, basically cutting my mom out of my life. Um, I'm not going to go into a lot of details. If you want to know the details, it's in the Discord. I typed a nice long essay out, but a lot of my anxiety stems from my childhood with my mom and her just being overly controlling. And I want to say there's a lot of controlling parents out there, and it wasn't like if I got a B plus that she would ground me for months, right? But um, it was things that were fine to do when I was a kid that she kept doing when I was an adult, essentially. Um, she would want. She grew up in Europe, so everybody knows, and a small town in Europe, a small country in Europe, where everybody literally knew everybody. So it wasn't out of the realm for if you became friends with somebody, you obviously would, though their parents would become friends and all that stuff. And she wanted to know every friend I was hanging out with, and she wanted their parents' phone numbers and be able to talk to their parents at all times. And as a kid, that's fine, but when I'm in high school and in college, and she still wanted to do that, she still wanted me to call her every day with an update, and I'm trying to cram for finals or study and all of those things, and she's getting mad at me for doing that. And I just, at first I obliged, but then I couldn't do it anymore, and then texting happened, and I was able to text her every day, but that wasn't enough. And then realizing through therapy that things like my stepdad and her would call me dumbass all the time, and I thought it was playful at the time because it was like, yeah, I did something stupid, they call me dumbass. But it was kind of small hits to my ego that would, you know, kind of slowly chip away at my self confidence. But the main thing is, when me and my wife argue, um, it's very when you're arguing with anybody, but especially your significant other, it's very important to have open communication and talk about what's the issue is and talk about why you feel a certain way and discuss it. Um, for me, I would shut down. We'd start arguing, and I would just say nothing and have no reaction and just basically become emotionless. Um, and I honestly didn't know why. And that's kind of what stemmed this whole journey to find myself. Um, when my mom and my stepdad started arguing with each other, they would do it in front of me. And this would be like 2 hour arguments. And they're yelling and screaming at each other, calling each other names. And a lot of times, too, they would ask me, like, um, am I right on this? Should I be being yelled at for this? And back then, I just thought they were looking for help to resolve it. But looking back on it now, like, I would never ever bring my kids into our arguments ever. They shouldn't have to see that, especially knowing my history, like knowing that I already went through one divorce to have to see that two people I love having to argue. It's just not where I wanted to be. Um, but fast forward now to the last few years, and when my wife and I got engaged and stuff, we told our parents like everybody does. And I say my mom for last, not knowing how she would react because she's a wild card. And she took it well. That was all fine and dandy, but things started changing, and she lost the control over me. She lost the control over my life and being able to know where I'm at all times. And I'm not going to get into details. Again, it's in the Discord if you want to see it. But she essentially was mad that we told her. Well, let's go back. When my daughter was born, we lived 3 hours away, 2.5 hours away, and my wife was just not having a good day. Having a bout of postpartum depression, and she didn't want my mom to come over, which is fine. Like, I understand when you're going through something, sometimes you just need to be alone. And my mom was supposed to come by, and we told her, you know what, we're gonna cancel. I'm sorry, she's not feeling up to it. We'll reschedule. Like, I don't know when, but we'll reschedule. My mom said okay. She was upset because she didn't get to come by, but she said, okay. She drove 3 hours to specifically go against our wishes, and she came by. And this started a whole thing of boundaries, crossing boundaries that led to us, not denouncing, but that led to us having the family arguing and then getting back to good standing, then arguing and then getting back to good standing. And after the second time, um, while we were still cordial, it wasn't the same. Both sides would be walking on eggshells. I would be stressed out the entire time, trying to mediate, and being in the middle is a lot of pressure, trying to make sure that this person is getting mad at the other person, vice versa. And it took a lot of its toll on me mentally, to the point where I could only stand to be around my mom for 3 hours. And this isn't me. Look, my wife had to go through that too, right? She had to deal with that. So I am not putting her at fault at all. Before any of you tried to do that, like, she was trying to do her best, knowing full well how my mom is. And it got to the point where we're doing that. We're being cordial while it was us walking on eggshells. But it was working. Then this last August, my daughter turned 6, and she, we had this whole vacation plan. We went to the vacation, and we had her whole birthday day planned. It was a very busy day, extremely, extremely stressful day. Fun and stressful, but still stressful, very jam-packed day. And my mom was like, we want to say happy birthday to her. Can you please set a time for us to FaceTime? And we're like, I don't know if we're going to get to it today. It's a very busy day. We can probably do it tomorrow. And my mom essentially was like, that's unacceptable. I have the right to say happy birthday to my grandchild. And my wife's like, no, you don't. This is our kid. You don't get to tell us when. Let's back up. My wife's like, we are very busy today. I'm sorry that you can't say happy birthday to her, but we had this whole day planned out. We'll have to do it tomorrow. And my mom is like, that's unacceptable. And she said, that's unacceptable. And my wife's like, well, it's our kid. We're making this decision. We told you we will do it another day. This is all through text, by the way. And my mom says, yes, master. So my mom is very emotional. Like I said before, just like I do, she wears her heart on her sleeve. She's very bad at separating emotion and the right thing to say. That point, the relationship was broken, and we hadn't really talked or hung out since. A couple weeks ago, I reached out to my mom and my stepdad after a long time of not talking, saying, look, I know our relationship is permanently broken, but I think we should try and at least work something out where you can see the kids. It's not fair to the kids to not be able to see you. If you want to try and work on a relationship, we can, but I honestly don't think that it's going to happen. I expected that's very unfortunate, but thank you for letting us see the kids. And I would like to apologize for how we acted. It wasn't right. And even if they expected an apology from us, which I don't think they really warranted one, but at least they were saying like, hey, we want to apologize. But nope, it was, okay, cool. And then they start texting us all over the place, like everything's back to normal. And I thought about it for a week, and I'm like, they're acting like nothing happened. Like there's no wrongdoing on their end. And I just made the decision that I don't want my kids to see a strained relationship with their parents, or a strained relationship between their parents and their grandparents. I don't want them to think that's okay. I don't want them to think that, I don't want them to have to watch me be stressed, me be in an anxiety all the time. I don't think it's healthy for them to see that. So while I selfishly made the decision because I don't want to have to go through all of that stress, I also made it for my kids. I don't want them to see it. It ended up being a 30-minute video, but I think to kind of know some of my pains, and look, this is like 85% of the stories for all of them, because some of it I just don't want to talk about, and some of it is just not worth talking about. But music saved me. Music was why I got through a lot of that stuff along with my friends, and this is why I do this channel. Is if I could help somebody get through something similar, then hopefully, then I've succeeded in what I did. If this channel helps one person, then I'm happy. So I think I've thought for over the weekend about what I wanted to talk about in this video, and that's why I'm not as emotional as you might be thought I was going to be. Just because I've thought about it a lot, and this might not be what you guys want to hear. This might not be a video you even care about. This might be a reason to unsubscribe, and that's fine. I think content creators should talk more about their personal life, to be honest with you. A lot of them are just in it for the clicks and the money, and they don't care about the community as much as others. And I'm not saying put me on some type of pedestal, because I do, but that's what this channel is built off of. It's built off of the community. It's built off of what the community wants to see, and me trying to help the community. And hopefully that's appreciative. But yeah, so that's kind of a story of kind of the stuff I've went through. Again, as time passes and I get more people joining this community that want to hear more, I might go into more detail. I might do a live thing on Twitch or YouTube, or even in my Discord, and we can talk about it. But yeah, so that's it. Make sure that you guys, I'm not going to do any self-promoting, but make sure that you realize you have more power over yourself than you think, and don't let other people tell you how to act. And don't let other people tell you how to feel. Your feelings are valid. And that's all I have to say. Just remember that good vibes are contagious.